Mm-mm.
Oh, there
Oh,
we go. Got
okay.
it. Welcome, everybody. And we're kicking off our 10th sleep in celebration. So for any of you new, Project Sleep do a weekend where we focus on rest and some special restivities, so that we can prioritize, rest. We can talk about sleep, sleep health, sleep equity, sleep disorders, and just all come together as a community. So I'm super excited to be here. For anybody that doesn't know me, I'm Emma Cooksey. So I'm the host of the Sleep Apnea Stories podcast. But for tonight, the most important thing is I'm the chair of the board of directors here at Project Sleep. So I'm super excited to be here. And I have my guest, Heather Lill. Do you want to say hi, Heather?
Hello, everybody.
So you're going to feel like I'm ignoring you because I've got a couple of things to cover before we start having our chit chat. Um, but a couple of things to know. So you can see I got busy today with some artwork. Kind of ended up, I was going for clouds, kind of ended up a bit like sheep. But we have so many different resources. We have shareable social media posts. So to access all of that, you guys can go to project-sleep.com. And if you click where it says get involved, and then under there it says sleep in campaign, and it has shareables for social media, ways that you can get involved. It has a full itinerary of everything happening this weekend. So that would be the place to go. The other thing to mention is it's our biggest fundraiser of the year. So if you want to get involved with supporting our work, that's also a great place to be is project-sleep.com. Couple of things just for the Facebook Live, just to remember, we really encourage you all to get involved in the comments and, share your experience and ask questions. But just to remind you that this will be going up, it will be available after the fact on Facebook, and the comments stay with it. So we don't want you to share anything you're not comfortable being out in public in our comment section. And the other thing is, so we're going to be talking all around sleep and sleep questions and getting help with your sleep, but we are not giving you any medical advice. Okay, so if there's anything that we talk about when we're talking about sleep health and sleep disorders, and you have specific questions about your own health, you're going to want to go and find a qualified doctor, or indeed call our helpline, which is kind of why we're here tonight. So on to my guest, Heather. So I first met Heather Lill, um, I think a few years ago now. So probably at a sleep conference because I knew her as Matt Horsnell's lovely wife. So Matt is a patient advocate who is just a trailblazer and living with sleep apnea and narcolepsy. And so I just thought Heather's lovely, but then I didn't realize any of your background
Mhm.
until you started this role with Project Sleep, managing the new sleep helpline. So, Heather, do you want to just fill me in for the first time and everybody watching a bit on your background apart from being Matt's wife?
Sure. So realistically speaking, I have had a fascination with sleep since I was a child. During my adolescent years, I kept one of those dictionaries of like dream interpretation to try to figure out what was going on with all of my dreams and what those were. Um, because I just thought it was super cool how the brain does all of the things that it does while you're sleeping. So it's just continuing to roll on, and you're not even consciously aware of what's happening, which is just
Yeah.
fascinating to me. So then when I got into undergrad for psychology, I got to learn a little more about what those processes are and how important sleep is, for memory and for, resetting hormones and all of those functions that take place underneath. And I got to learn more about what the sleep stages are and some of those, just very scientific details. Um, and then I got into graduate school, and at that point, my sister started displaying symptoms of type 1 narcolepsy. We didn't know what it
Oh,
was at the time. Um, and for her, I know for a lot of people, sleepiness is the most profound symptom that they have. For her, it was cataplexy that was actually
Mm.
the more
Can you
profound symptom.
remind people, just because we have people watching from all over, like we
Mhm.
have family members supporting people with sleep disorders,
Mhm.
we have people who are, clinicians, and some people might not be familiar with what cataplexy is. Do
Yeah,
you feel comfortable sharing a bit about how that showed up
sure.
for your sister?
Sure. For my sister in particular, laughter was a really big trigger for the loss of muscle tone.
Mhm.
I remember in particular one instance we were in the kitchen and the two of us were just joking around with one another, and we both started laughing incredibly hard, and she lost all muscle tone and was in the floor.
Mhm.
Um, and so again, we living in a rural area during this time saw a lot of specialists trying to figure out what was
I don't
going on.
even know where you were.
We're in Erin, Tennessee, which is
Okay,
literally the
that's where you
tiny
were growing
that is,
up,
and that's
and
where I am now. Like that's where we
okay,
grew
yeah.
up. That's kind of where I am now. And it's a map dot. Like it is a tiny little map dot, two stoplights in the whole place, like in the whole county. Um, so again, the closest specialist is an hour and a half away for us. Um, her first major cataplexy event was at a band competition. They thought she had had a seizure. She was
Mhm.
taken, via ambulance to Vanderbilt because that's the closest hospital to where we were, and that kind of started the ball rolling. Um,
So do people there recognize the symptoms of cataplexy? And
no,
no.
no, we went through I don't even know how many specialists, Emma, before we were ever able to recognize what was going on.
So,
And
so she wasn't
realistic,
seeing sleep specialists at that point.
no,
She's okay.
no, not at that point. She saw a neurologist and a pulmonologist and a cardiologist and all of you can name the list. So she saw all of these different doctors until they finally came back with, well, this is just stress. This is a manifestation of stress. You should get into therapy and you should take some anti-anxiety meds. But again, this was so profound for her. She was having cataplexy attacks at school. She was having cataplexy attacks anytime that she tried to engage with her friends. It was such a profound thing to see her going through. Um, so I got to kind of researching because that's who we are. So we kind of started talking. And during this, it was well, her mother, my stepmother, um, has type 2 narcolepsy.
Okay.
Um, and so the pieces kind of
Without
started to
cata, that's without
without
cataplexy. No.
cataplexy.
Yeah.
So she has type 2 without cataplexy. But the pieces kind of started to fall in place that that may be an area to kind of look into. Um, so they made an appointment with a sleep specialist for that, and that's when she finally got her diagnosis. It took 2 years, which I know is much shorter of an amount of time than a lot of people struggle with that. I know the delay to diagnosis is significant
But we
for
hope
a
it,
lot of
I
sleep
mean, my
disorders.
hope is with all the work I do is
Yes,
that we get it to be zero, that everybody knows all
absolutely.
of these signs, they go
Yes,
straight to the doctor and then they go straight to a sleep specialist, right? So,
exactly.
yeah. And
Exactly.
so tell me, so there was some sort of, did you train as a therapist? What was the
I
next?
did. I was in graduate school at that point to become a mental health therapist. And I, again, continued to just kind of play with sleep on the side. It was just a thing that I was really fascinated with and the way that sleep and mental health were connected and all of those things.
Yes.
Um, so then I started my job as a school-based therapist. I worked with adolescents, and they would come in and they would be so tired, and that was their biggest symptom. And so I was asking questions like, well, how are you sleeping? Tell me what your sleep, what time are you going to bed? What time are you getting up? And I started using the phrase with them a lot. Sleep is the foundation of wellness. Um, and I said it so much that like anytime they came in and we were talking about, their sleep or the issues that they were having with sleep, they would be like, yeah, no, I know, Miss Heather, sleep is the foundation of wellness. Like I said it so much it became a catchphrase. But it truly was. And so we would put in place some of those behavioral things that, they could do to help improve their sleep. Um, so then we're gonna fast forward a little. So I did school-based therapy for like 8.5 years. I loved it. It was a great, fantastic thing. And again, that was my touch to sleep community was just how is this related to mental health? We're gonna fast forward. At some point during this, I decided that the greatest thing that I could ever do is start dating. And that is where I met Matt. So late 2020, um, I like swiped whatever direction it is you swipe on Tinder, and we matched. And we were having a conversation about what he did for a living and what he was doing. And he was telling me about how he wrote blog articles at that point, because he was kind of freelancing, writing blog articles for different things. And I was like, oh, well, what do you write about? And he's like, oh, just different things. And can you send me an example of something you've written? I'd really love to read it. And the article that he sent me was an article about his own, the way that his own life was impacted by narcolepsy type 1.
Yeah.
And when I read narcolepsy with cataplexy, I was like, wait, my sister has that. I've never at this point, since she got diagnosed, let's see, it was, I think it's about 13 years ago now.
Yeah.
So that was, 9 or 10 years prior that she had gotten diagnosed. I had never in that entire time met another person with that diagnosis.
So
Um,
would we say it was meant to be?
absolutely. Absolutely. All jokes aside, Emma, I did tell one of my coworkers at that point, like when the first conversation I had with him was like, I'm gonna grow up and marry this man. Like it was instant. So that led to me tangentially being involved in the sleep community. It led to me going to different events with him,
Mm.
listening to him speak, watching all of this passion that he had for the sleep community. Um, and leaving those experiences feeling very inspired, very like, this is so cool, and wishing like, oh man, I wish there was a way that I could do this, that I
Yeah.
could be more involved, that I could jump all the way into the pool with this. Because I'm dipping my toe in here and there, but I like, this is a great
And
community.
so how did like I obviously know about the development of the sleep helpline that
Hmm.
Project Sleep just launched at the end of last year
Hmm.
from being on the board, right? But how did you come to find out about it? Did you just apply for the job or what happened?
So actually, Matt sent me via text message, no context, just sent me the link to the job description.
Yeah,
And I read it and was like, wait, I could work for Project Sleep.
yeah,
I could work for Project Sleep. And that's, again, that's how we got here. It was like, this is the perfect intersection of my passion for sleep and just my kind of like nerdy desire to know the things about sleep,
yeah.
and my mental health background, where I'm able to, affirm and validate and, sit with people when they are in the midst of something that's really difficult. And
So anybody
that's
who's
the
not
thing.
familiar at all with the helpline and what it does, I think it's
Hmm.
really important to I've had a few people that I've sent the details to
Hmm.
ask a lot of questions around what it is and what it isn't. So
Hmm.
it would be really helpful for people to understand exactly what the helpline is for and who should call. Like I
Right.
think sometimes with sleep, people don't understand that there is sometimes a challenging time for people between realizing that they're really struggling with their sleep and recognizing which healthcare professional can help them. So
Hmm.
especially with sleep apnea, I know that there's a bunch of different ways you can go about that. And with insomnia, you might want to go to a behavioral sleep medicine specialist
Right.
versus
Right.
maybe a pulmonologist for sleep apnea. So do you want to just explain about what that, just in really super basic terms, what the helpline is there to do?
Yeah. So I know that we've all read the actual, statement on social media that it's a free national helpline that provides, personalized resources for people with sleep issues and sleep disorders. So that's our really fun big thing. And what that really means is this is a helpline where you can call, you can email, or you can send in a web form um, to ask us any of those questions that you have about sleep. You can be a person who is caretaking for someone, a parent, a loved one of someone that you think might have a sleep disorder. You can be a person who might have a sleep disorder yourself. You could be a teacher who has a student in their class who has a 504 or an IEP for idiopathic hypersomnia or narcolepsy or sleep, those types of things. And you just want to know more information
Yeah.
about how you can support that student. Um, so there's realistically, it's for anyone. Everyone sleeps, and we all have occasionally struggled with our sleep, and knowing what to do and where to turn. And so we're here for those who might have bigger difficulties with sleep. Um, and again, for professionals too, who may need resources on how to assist those, it'd be really great to have a social worker call in to be like, how can I do more in the area of sleep? So that I can be like, go get trained in CBTI,
Yeah.
um, so that I
Um,
can kind of get on that.
so tell me about oh, you see, this is the problem with the whole brain fog with the sleep disorders. I'm kind of like,
Understand.
um, oh, I know what I was going to say was so when people call in, it do you take if people are suspecting they might have symptoms of a sleep disorder, are you able to take them through a screener to decide like what they should do and who they should go see? What how does that work? Or is the
Um,
screener on the website? I feel like there's a screener.
we do have I think we've got the 24 symptom checklist or
Yeah,
25
that's
symptom
what I'm thinking
checklist.
about.
I think we've got that one listed. We are actually working to compile a more of those self-assessments or more of
Yeah,
those screeners that are, able so that people can use for self-assessment. So we're in the process of compiling some of those to have available on our website.
that's
But
great.
realistically, most people are calling in knowing it's probably insomnia or
Yeah,
I think I have sleep apnea. A lot of people have already kind of gone to that point.
yeah,
And again, I can't recommend a specific doctor to anyone. But what I can do is say, hey, let me help you find a sleep center near you. And I can
right.
link them
So
to,
there are certain sleep centers that are accredited by the AASM, the
yes,
American Academy of
yes,
Sleep Medicine. So we're able to put people in touch with those resources to
correct.
find a properly qualified person in their area. And
Yes,
also for insomnia, I would think CBTI, is
correct.
it behavioral, what's it called?
Yes. The
The Society
mm,
of
my
Behavioral
brain ate
Medicine,
that. My brain ate the
pretty
name of
sure.
that organization. But yes,
But
we
by
are
linking people to
looking
those,
to,
they're able to
correct.
go to those websites
Yes,
and do a search so they can
yes,
find the right kind of sleep
absolutely.
professional in their area kind of thing.
Yes,
So that's good.
absolutely.
Has
And we
anything
also,
surprised you about the people that are calling in? Like,
not
is it all pretty straightforward? Like, the person thinks they have insomnia, who should they go to? Or are you finding people with kind of layered needs? Like it stands out in my mind that on my podcast I interviewed somebody like maybe about 2 years ago who was talking about veterans with sleep apnea. And that conversation went really differently from how I thought in my head ahead of time that it would, just because
Mhm.
it very quickly got into the multi layers of
Yes.
um the different issues that people were facing. And it wasn't just, sleep health. It was also, access to dentistry and access to general
Mhm.
medical care, So have you had a bunch of that where you've had to figure out resources for people?
Yes. So we've had some cases that are fairly straightforward. I just need to know where I can find a sleep center. I just need to know how to talk to my doctor. And then we have had some requests for resources where I'm spending, you know, almost the rest of my day sometimes trying to find exactly what they're looking for
Yeah,
and looking for programs that will fit those needs. Whether it's someone who is underinsured or uninsured, whether it's a person who lives in what I like to refer to as a resource desert, where there just aren't resources around them that are accessible to them, for whatever reason that may be. Um, so we do have some cases that are a little more difficult and have a lot more layers to them than just I can't sleep tonight or
right.
I haven't been able to sleep for the last 2 weeks or I think I have this disorder. It's not always as easy as just linking a person to a doctor and going, okay, well, you're fine now. This will do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sometimes there's other services that they need to be linked to in order to be able to even meet those health needs. And again, I feel very strongly about our sleep equity um, kind of aspect of things. And so being able to link to resources that are accessible and identify those needs for what we don't have so that we can kind of use that to drive
Yes.
legislative advocacy later is kind of an important part of that.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, it's not always just straightforward. Here, let me send you, the questions to ask your doctor sheet
Yeah.
or
I think sometimes one of the things I love about the sleep helpline is having somebody who's empathetic and understanding to be able to share exactly where you're at in your journey and have somebody listen and understand.
Mhm.
Because I think oftentimes sleep disorders, especially, are so poorly understood. Like
Yes.
in the healthcare, you know, by healthcare professionals as well as just the general public. So I think to have somebody knowledgeable that can listen is so great.
Yes.
So the other thing was oh yeah, so I guess because this whole weekend we're focusing on rest and
Mhm.
self-care and whatever that means to us, what specifically do you do in order to recharge and rest? Like, do you have any things you want to share about that?
So I have a lot of ways that I take care of my mental health. I'm a very big proponent of everyone in the entire world could benefit from therapy. So
Yes.
that's we all could, we all could.
Yeah.
So I do continue a relationship with my own therapist, for that, just kind of making sure that I'm processing events that go on in my life and working through stressors. Um, but in addition to that, a lot of it is, this is where I'm going to get on my soapbox as a mental health therapist. Just for a second, I'm going to put that
I
hat on.
love that.
Um, I think we have, because of social media, in a lot of ways, we have taken the idea of self-care and we have made it into this giant grand thing.
Yeah.
It's massages and spa days and facials and bubble baths that last
Yeah.
for 3 hours, and it's,
And it's
expensive
spending money on things.
champagne. Yes, it's expensive champagne, it's pedicures and all of these things. And if you can access those things, that's great. Congratulations, good for you. I'm so happy that people do things that care for them in those ways. And I'm glad that there are people who have the ability to access those. Um, but I have had to, throughout my life, change the way that I think about self-care. And I've had to work with a lot of people in helping them reframe the way that they think about self-care. So at this point in my life, self-care is things like getting in bed and prioritizing my sleep. It is making sure that I take my medications for my thyroid disorder and my anxiety, and my sleep now, because we've added that. It is making sure that I drink enough water. I am hydrated. Um, Making sure
So,
that I eat regular meals.
yeah.
That I step away from what I'm doing long enough to, that it's making sure that I engage in hobbies. Um, it's things I put bird feeders outside the window of my office so that throughout my day I can watch my birds.
Right.
Because it just makes me happy.
Joyful. Yeah.
Um, it's spending time with my friends. We have Taco Tuesday at our house every single week, and that is my best friend and her husband come. My brother-in-law is usually here. Some of his friends come with him.
I want to come to
Kids
Taco
come over.
Tuesday.
Absolutely, anytime, anytime. The door, and that's the other part about it. Taco Tuesday is like a complete and total, like, door is open. If people show up, that's great, and we welcome them with open arms. And so it's a place to connect with the people that I love. Um, Self-care to me looks like moving my body, and it's not always heavy lifting. I do that with Matt sometimes. We'd love to lift together. But it's also, I've got a walking pad in my office, and I can walk at like 2 miles per hour with a playlist that I made that contains some of my favorite, like, slower, sometimes there's a lot of Taylor Swift on there. But like some of my like slower jams, and then I have asked some of my closest friends for song suggestions so that when those come on, I'm connecting with them. It's like I'm taking a walk with my best friend, even though she's not there. Hiking is another one for me. Anytime that I can be in nature, I'm gonna come back out of the woods feeling completely recentered. Um, so all of those things to me are self-care. It was a way for me to take something that we have turned into this big lavish experience
Yeah.
and make it buildable into my day. Um, so again, it is things like I check in with myself and go, am I hungry right now? Oh, I should go eat something.
Yeah.
Right? Like if you're
Yeah, and
hungry,
it's funny that you said the thing about staying hydrated because there's so many things on social media where it's like, oh, I feel terrible. And then it's like, have you drunk water? Have you moved your
right?
body? Have you
Right,
slept?
like
Like, and
this
I,
is my
yeah,
emotional
and
support water cup and it stays
yeah,
full
but
all day long.
especially, I mean, I think especially with, I mean, it's not all about parenting, but I mean, everybody's really busy now doing all sorts of
Mhm.
things. And if you don't actually prioritize, I'm gonna drink water and eat regularly, you know,
Yeah.
Yeah.
It can be
So,
very hard. We have three kids in our house, and it is a difficult thing.
yeah, how's that going?
It's fine. It's great. They're wonderful children. And actually the oldest is at school most of the time because she's in college. So but they're
And
great.
so I hadn't asked you specifically, and I don't know, you're welcome to share as much or as little about this as you want to,
Sure.
but I hadn't asked you about your own sleep in detail.
Oh.
You want to share
Um,
anything about that, or are we still in the middle of figuring that out?
so actually this is the part where I have yet to say these words publicly. But hi, my name is Heather, and I'm also in the midst of my own sleep journey. Um, I got diagnosed a couple of years ago with positional sleep apnea.
Right.
Um, and we
So for
tried the
anybody
behavioral thing.
listening who's completely not familiar,
Yes.
positional sleep apnea is where they do the sleep study and they find that you only are having sleep apnea. So sleep apnea is where you're pausing breathing
Hmm.
multiple times, cutting off the oxygen to your brain, waking up with a start, all
Hmm.
night, multiple times. But positional sleep apnea is usually where you're on flat on your back, you're having apnea events. But if you're on your side, you don't have any events.
Hmm.
So that's what they diagnosed you with?
Yes. That was the start, it was very sad because flat on my back is my preferred sleeping position.
I know. So many people.
Um, so we tried all of the things. We tried the wedge pillow. We tried Matt kind of like, helping me, rolling me over, and I think we tried a like a ball in a backpack kind
Yeah,
of a
yeah, yeah.
situation.
There's a
It
lot of
was
things like that are wearable devices
yeah.
that
Let
stop
me tell you,
you. That kind
no.
of like there's one that's like a pool noodle strapped to your back, stops you rolling over onto your back. Yeah.
Yeah, it was and all of those were so uncomfortable that it was difficult. So I was just like, okay, whatever, I'm just gonna deal with this.
Yeah.
Um, well, and as it does, it progressed and got worse. Um, and so I started CPAP therapy in January.
Okay.
And
Of
as
this
much
year.
of this year, yes. So I
Okay.
have been middle of January. So
Right.
like we've
How's it
been,
going?
I wish that I could say I was one of those people. And I know we've talked about this before, where like you have people with the story of sleep apnea where they put on the CPAP and they go to sleep all night and they feel great
Yeah.
and it's wonderful. And I am not that person, unfortunately.
But I think just to normalize it for anybody watching, CPAP therapy can be really challenging to get used to for a
It
lot of
can.
people. So we definitely want to normalize that
Yes,
if you have a really tough time, especially in the beginning, that's totally
yes,
normal. And there's so
yes,
many other people in the same boat. It
yeah.
took me months to get set up with mine, and now I'm 16 years in with CPAP therapy. So
Yeah.
yeah, it definitely that's you're not alone is the main thing.
Right,
Um,
right.
and we can talk extensively offline if there's
Yeah,
anything I can help you with.
yeah.
And so Matt is also using CPAP.
Yes,
Yes.
yes.
So
Um,
and normally I would be all like worried about saying that, but he has definitely shared that publicly on my podcast
Absolutely,
and extensively everywhere else. So
absolutely,
well, I
absolutely.
love that you're both getting treatment, but so how is
Yes.
it right now? Like are you managing all night with a CPAP or it's a bit tricky?
Um, so I actually am an overachiever at everything. And I
Same.
had zero issues with compliance. I kept it on all night. Once we got the right mask fit for me,
Yes.
um, I did have so I tried two different types of chin straps, hated them. I hated the chin straps. And then I moved on to mouth taping.
So you have a nasal
Yes, yes.
CPAP,
I've got a
and
nasal
so
mask. It's not the cushions because obviously I have, too
yeah,
many
so you
things
have
for
like
that.
the nasal mask like
The
this,
middle nasal
and
mask.
you're gonna want to doctors
Keep
are
your
really
mouth.
keen
Yes.
for people to keep their mouth closed because if you
Hmm.
don't, it affects the pressure that should be going to keep your airway.
Correct. Correct.
So now you're experimenting with mouth tape to try and keep
Yes.
your mouth closed. Okay.
Yes. So the first night that or the first time that I tried it, it's kind of shaped like an eye, and I put it on long
Yep.
ways, thinking that was going to be the best way to go. And I put the mask on, and I have never, well, no, I have, but in several years, it has been several years since I experienced panic the way that I panicked in that moment, because it was like I couldn't breathe at all, even though I know like there is it's it is literally forcing air into my body, but I
Yeah.
felt like I couldn't breathe. And so I mean it was like very quick. I was ripping everything off. I pulled the mouth tape off. I started crying to Matt. I was like, I can't do this. I can't do this. Um, we just reoriented the mouth tape the other direction and we were fine.
Yeah, I know
But
exactly what you're talking about. You can either do it this way or this
or
way,
this way.
a tiny
Mhm.
bit, and it's fine.
Um, and
I
it was
know, well, it's a lot. You're trying to get used
it
to the
was
thing that you're not used to, so I get
yes,
it.
yes.
Yeah,
And that was the thing that luckily, again, I have a partner who also has sleep apnea and could very easily kind of relate to what that moment was like, and we could talk
yes,
me through it. But there are some people don't have that support. And so I think that's kind of another great place where like the helpline can come in and offer some of those
yeah.
suggestions. So but my sleep is still a work in progress. That's what we're gonna say. We're still
I
having a
mean,
lot of
honestly, I
disruption.
think for a lot of us, that's what
Yeah.
it's like, right?
So, yeah.
Yeah. So, well, thank you so much for sharing that. It's
Yeah.
really helpful to a lot of people, I think. Let me just check that I don't want to miss anything. Um, and then the other thing, when we were discussing questions for this, you and Julie were talking about mantras, and it made me think maybe I need a mantra. So, do I need a mantra? What's your mantra?
Oh my goodness. I have so many mantras that actually at one point I was given an assignment to come up with cheesy statements because I say them so frequently. And I don't know if that's just the therapist in me that is constantly thinking in inspirational quotes. Um, I have several that I use quite frequently. The first one is on the wall behind me. We can do hard things. Um, and it is a reminder to myself when things are hard that I can still look a challenge in the eye and overcome it. It doesn't negate the hardness of that
Right.
thing. I always want to be able to validate when something is difficult that it is indeed difficult. But just because it's difficult doesn't mean that I can't accomplish it.
Yeah.
Um,
I
so
love
that's
Glennon Doyle on that because obviously she has the
yes,
podcast called We Can Do Hard Things. And
yes,
I remember one time her talking about it's not I can do hard things, it's we can do
yes,
hard things and the need
yes,
for community and support.
yes.
And yeah, I love that
Yeah.
too.
Um,
So I think was there anything else you wanted to share that I haven't asked you about? What are you most excited about with as
oh,
this
yeah.
outline grows and
Yeah, so I've got a lot of really big goals for this, but I'm gonna just kind of keep it a little short for that. Because I could daydream all day about how cool this whole thing could be. Um, there are three kind of main goals that I really am working for. One of those is I would love to see us be able to help with that decrease in the delay to diagnosis. That's a really big one for me. And so again, if I can do that for even one person, then I feel like I have won. Another one is being able to get to a position where we can expand our hours and have a bigger reach. We've got certain hours that we are online and you can actually call in and get a live person. You can reach us 24 hours a day, 7 days a week via email or via web form. But having an actual live human that you can talk to, that you can have a real conversation with, that you can share whatever is going on with your sleep and get feedback in the here and now. um I would love to see those hours get to be expanded. And then I'm also really looking forward to what we can do to partner with other organizations to expand that reach as well. Sleep is
yeah,
something that touches everyone's life. It is something that we all have in common and that we all do. And many of us are apparently not doing it very well.
yeah.
And so, as many
And I
organizations,
think like you talked about before, this link between mental health and sleep,
yes,
like
yeah,
working more closely with people out there offering support for mental health. I see like a
correct.
lot of, I guess synergy between those two, just because
Hmm.
it's the same kind of people that are having issues with one might be having issues with the other. Well,
Correct.
that's great. Thank you so much, Heather. This has been like really a delight.
Yeah.
And I think I've covered all my things. I'll get off of the call and I'll be like, God, I'm going to ask or something. So for everybody tuning in, thank you so much for joining us. And We are looking forward to spending this whole weekend with you across Project Sleep social media. So
Mhm.
if you want to like have a look at the itinerary for all the things going on this weekend, you can go to project-sleep.com and click get involved. In fact, I think there's a big banner that says sleep in, but the other way to do it is get involved and then click where it says sleep in campaign. And you'll see all of the list of all the things going on. And we're really grateful for everybody,
Mhm.
tagging us on social media. Like if you have any artwork like my wonderful effort,
Beautiful.
don't forget to tag us. Projects, I think it's project_sleep. Now I'm getting out of my depth, but like, on Instagram or Facebook or wherever you happen to be. And we love seeing what you're doing and connecting. So thank you so much. And thank you, Heather, and everybody have a lovely evening.
Bye, guys.
Bye.